Welcome back to Simplifying the State, the podcast where we break down politics so you don't have to rewatch Schoolhouse Rock on 2x speed. As always, I'm Adam Watson.
I'm Nicholas Perrin.
Okay, so today's episode we're going to be talking about something that is really close to the Clayton area and the St. Louis area, which were the tornadoes which happened on May 16th. So just a brief summary of what happened. Basically, around 2:40 or so, a tornado formed in the St. Louis County area. It formed, and then it went on a path of destruction through parts of Clayton, the Central West End, and then St. Louis City, specifically North St. Louis. In total, there have been about at least $1 billion in estimated damages. This is according to the St. Louis government. And about 5,000 structures were damaged or destroyed by the storm. Okay, so Nicholas, just to get your thoughts, how do you feel about the storm? What was going through your head as it was happening?
Well, while it was happening, I was at school. The sky got pretty dark. I was thinking, that's interesting. And then they took us inside for the tornado. I figured nothing was going to happen because it usually never does in Clayton, but was I wrong?
Yeah, I was in the center of Clayton, which is the recreational area that's connected to the school, and I was in the gym part, and I knew there were thunderstorms, and I knew there was severe thunderstorm warning, but I was like, oh, okay, it's gonna be lightning, hail, rain, stuff like that, and it was that in the part of Clayton where we were at, but then I got a tornado warning, which I think we've all gotten tornado warnings here in St. Louis a bunch, but usually it's for something out in the county or out at the airport, maybe something over in Southern Illinois or something. And they brought us down, and then I was like, okay, this seems like a little bit of an overreaction. We're in Clayton, in a city. The geography of the whole of the area that we're in doesn't really work for a tornado, yada yada yada. And then my mom texts me and says, I think a tornado just went over our house. And I was like, I'm not sure that's right. But then I kept seeing all these stories of tornado confirmed in Clayton. And then I walked home and I saw everything that had happened because it hit our neighborhood. Ours was one of the parts of Clayton that was hit pretty hard. But the street behind us was hit worse. But it was just crazy that a tornado not only hit Clayton, but it formed not outside of the county, but in a metropolitan area. And it was kind of crazy. Okay, so response has been overwhelmingly the same from various state officials, federal officials, local officials, which has been this has been a tragedy. We're going to do everything we can to support the cleanup. Governor Mike Kehoe said he is deploying the National Guard to St. Louis starting on Tuesday. Up to 45 engineering personnel from the 35th Engineering Battalion will set up 4 different debris clearing areas in St. Louis City to help with the cleanup. Nicholas, what do you think about the governor's decision to deploy the National Guard? Do you think it is warranted? Do you think maybe it should have come sooner? Do you think this is about the right time? What do you think?
I thought it was a little bit delayed because the scope of the damage was seen pretty much the day after, so I'm not really sure why it took as long as it did. But,
yeah,
no,
definitely. The damage was noticeable, and it was definitely visible the day after the storm, almost immediately after. So I'm not sure why we're about more than a week removed from the actual storm, and I'm not sure why it's just now that the governor is deploying the National Guard. That seems like something that would have been more useful maybe a couple days after the storm and not more than a week after. But still, it will provide a lot of support for North St. Louis. Speaking of North St. Louis, though, that area was impacted possibly the most out of all of the all of St. Louis and St. Louis County. Uh, there was a lot of damage there. A lot of the houses were not as well built, so a lot of them collapsed. Um, so there have been a lot of condemned buildings. Ameren, which is the local power company which services St. Louis and the area, said they're going to be cutting off electricity to those condemned buildings. Um, but yeah, there has been a lot of destruction in North St. Louis, and that's kind of one of the main parts of our episode. It's not just the destruction in North St. Louis, but then also kind of the possibility that you kind of see a difference in response between Clayton and in North St. Louis, because here in Clayton, there was significantly less damage. There was still damage done to various areas, but there was less so done to here than into North St. Louis. And I feel like I haven't been into North St. Louis since the tornado happened, but I haven't uh, been there like seeing everything. But from what I've uh, kind of seen from different news stories, it's possible that because Clayton may have gotten more an influx of private uh, contractors coming in to immediately start cleanup work or immediately start repair work. Nicholas, do you think there was possibly like a gap between the aid that was given to Clayton and the aid that was given to North St. Louis?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can definitely see that. Um, I mean, I haven't seen the aid that's gone into North St. Louis firsthand, but I've seen the aid that's gone into Clayton, and it was pretty substantial. I mean, they still took a long time to fix everything, but yeah, it's pretty sad.
Yeah, I mean, Clayton does have a higher median income than North St. Louis, so that may have been a possible that if there was, that was a probable factor in it. Uh, Maybe not in terms of government response. I know the St. Louis government and the mayor have been working really hard in North St. Louis to try to get the whole thing cleaned up. I know they've been working a lot on the roads to get those clear. But I mean, in Clayton, just like the day afterwards, you saw a bunch of contractors in and around the areas damaged by tornadoes, and they were either repairing homes, clearing debris, clearing trees that had come down, working on all that stuff. And I think it was the day after um, the tornado that I came home and I saw that pretty much all of the roads uh, in and around where I live had already been cleared. And then I had heard that they had still not finished clearing all the roads in North St. Louis. Now that's possibly due to the fact that North St. Louis was hit harder than us. But I mean, Nicholas, do you think that it was because of the severity, the difference of severity between Clayton and North St. Louis, or do you think it was maybe again because of the uh, socioeconomic differences between the two cities that more people, or at least more private companies, prioritized Clayton over the city?
I mean, like, it's I haven't. Again, I don't know how drastic the damage was in North St. Louis. Based on what you said, like you said, it was worse than the damage dealt to Clayton. So, yeah, based on that, like it already seems a little unfair that even if Clayton gets the same amount of aid, but yeah, Clayton did get more, and the income difference would definitely be a factor in that.
I mean, yeah, I mean, if you look at the photos, there have been a lot of homes that have been decimated in North St. Louis. There were a lot of buildings that collapsed, either due to the fact that some of them were possibly less well built, or some of that, or the just strength of the storm and the winds of the tornado that hit. North St. Louis, but I mean, again, it's hard to say whether there was or at least it's hard to find definitive proof that there was a uh, get difference in response between Clayton and North St. Louis due to the difference in socioeconomic status. But I mean, given the history of North St. Louis and how it's been historically mistreated, there is a uh, good chance that there was a gap in the response between the two cities, uh, mostly because of companies coming to the area where they think they're going to get paid more, possibly, um, and stuff like that, which is pretty unfair, obviously, to the people of North St. Louis who have many have lost their houses. I mean, I was reading this story about a woman and a son who were like living in tents on their property because their house had been condemned because of how severely it was damaged by the storm. And I feel like that's the place we need to be sending most of the support and most of the resources to try to clean up after this devastating and very rare tornado. Okay, so many people in St. Louis and St. Louis County who experienced a tornado, they reported not actually hearing the sirens. Nicholas, do you remember hearing the sirens? Obviously, they sent the alerts out to the phone, but I didn't hear the siren. I heard the sirens once, 20 minutes before the tornado like made landfall, but then nothing. It was just the alert on the phone.
I don't think I remember hearing the sirens at all, actually.
I don't think I heard them in the city. I think I may have heard them from like areas outside of the city. But yeah, according to a report, the button that activates the tornado sirens in St. Louis was not pressed. I saw two different things. So I want to like I saw two different reasons that was. One of them was from NPR. It said that the people who are in charge of like pressing the siren, alerting people, there was nobody in the office because they were at like a training thing. But then another story I saw from I think it was KSDK said it was because the button in the St. Louis Fire Department, which activates the sirens, was broken. So I'm not sure which one of them was the deciding factor. Possibly both.
And I think it's also good to mention that in a report by CBS, um, the button itself was not actually working when the tornado was ongoing. And even if it was, the fire department didn't try to push it because the report, or no, the order from, who was it? A government official was too ambiguous and didn't actually tell them to press the button and sound the sirens, which to me sounds like a fault on both sides. But
right. But yeah, Mayor Carr Spencer, though, has said that the city is going to be conducting an investigation into this, and then also changing its protocol for how it handles how the sirens are activated. In Kentucky, the same storm system that hit St. Louis then went on into southwestern Kentucky and then did a lot of damage there. But yeah, the damage done to Kentucky was extensive. I think it was about 19 deaths in parts of Kentucky. But yeah, the damage done was about 1.6 billion across Missouri and Kentucky. But then here is where an issue arises, which is FEMA. So basically, for those who don't know, FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, are the people who come in after a disaster like a tornado or a hurricane or an earthquake or a wildfire, and they come in and they provide aid. They for the people who have been impacted by helping to rebuild their communities, provide temporary housing for those who lost their houses. Why that's been an issue is that recently the Trump administration has sought to uh, take funding away from FEMA or restructure how that funding is distributed, making it much, much harder for communities to get access to that funding. They also canceled BRIC, which was a FEMA program that was created under the first Trump administration to provide grants to cities and communities to build natural disaster mitigation systems if the community could not afford to build them on their own. So basically, uh, if a community was prone to flooding because of a river that frequently overflowed, then that might provide a grant to build a dam to prevent that, or something like that. Or if there is a community that is at great risk of wildfires, like there was an example, if there was a community that was at great risk of wildfires, they secured a grant to replace the roofs of the houses in that community that couldn't afford to do it with ones that are less fire prone. But then their grant was revoked after Trump got elected, and they ended the program. So, Nicholas, what do you think about the potential damage that shifting funding away from FEMA could do?
I mean, I think some of that damage has already been seen.
Right.
Like the response was very slow, and I don't think it's very controversial to say it would have been faster without the budget cuts. So I mean, we've already seen some of the extent of the damage, and now think of what would happen if a hurricane, like a Category 5 hurricane, passed through Florida. That would be even worse.
Yeah, no, I saw a report that North Carolina applied for some FEMA disaster relief, and then the Trump administration, either the Trump administration or FEMA, struck it down. There are conflicting reports about who the decline of aid came from. But I mean, yeah, we've also seen that here in St. Louis. I mean, FEMA is just now arriving, and it took them like uh, more than a week to actually get approved to come down here. And I mean, North St. Louis is going to need FEMA support because a lot of them most likely do not have insurance. They do not have, unfortunately, the resources that the residents of Central West End or Clayton might have to repair their homes. So without FEMA, that community is going to be significantly scarred and kind of set back uh, in terms of what that community is able to do, because if their houses are severely destroyed or businesses were severely damaged and they don't have the money to replace that, that's going to make an already bad situation worse for North St. Louis. And so that's why they need that FEMA assistance. And that's why it's very important that FEMA actually provide that. I mean, St. Louis there's also a SEMA, which is City Emergency Management Agency. However, their budget is only about $400,000, and as of about today, as of this recording, it's already been 63% of that has already been expended. So, and it's only May, and there could be other storms in St. Louis, which brings me then to another point, which is that the amount of individual weather and climate disasters, which have totaled at least $1 billion in damages, has been increasing for years. I mean, in 2024, there were 27 individual weather and climate disasters, which totaled at least $1 billion in damages. That was trailing only the record-setting year before that, 2023, when there were 28 events which cost $1 billion or more in damages. And I mean, this is only going to keep rising as climate change continues. And I mean, the East Coast is heading into their hurricane season, possibly not knowing if FEMA is going to be there to help uh, restore their communities if they are damaged by one of these hurricanes. NOAA, which stands for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, as a result of Doge cuts and budget cuts, their budget has been their proposed budget cuts in the fiscal year 2026. They have proposed budget cuts of 27%. The National Weather Service has proposed budget cuts of 30%. So, I mean, these are the people who are keeping track of the storms and kind of where they're going. And so Nicholas, what do you think the impacts of uh, reducing these agencies' budgets could be?
Well, some of the impacts could be like less awareness about storms. It could be less preparation for storms, especially like hurricanes and maybe even tornadoes as well. A lot of the well, I'm not sure how much the increased preparation for hurricanes really helps in the event of one, but I can assume it would be a fair amount, and that could lead to a lot more destruction and unpreparedness in the event of a major hurricane or storm that comes to hit a place, especially one that is poor and doesn't really have access to rebuilding materials that a place like I don't know, like a richer city like Clayton does. So yeah, it could get a whole lot worse. Like it could be the situation we have in St. Louis, but maybe 10 times worse. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, knowing a storm is coming ahead of time won't do much in terms of damage to property, but it could certainly prevent unnecessary loss of life if they had adequate warning. Additionally,
Well, people
about
could it could help.
approximately,
Okay,
huh?
it can help reduce property damage. There are ways that you can mitigate a storm's effectiveness. People place sandbags around their house to minimize risk of flooding.
Well, yeah, I mean, I meant more so like if a tornado hits your house, there's not really much you can do to prepare your house
Just feed
for
it
that,
creatine.
huh?
Just feed it creatine.
Feed the house creatine?
Yeah,
I don't think that would do much.
no
But
chance.
no, okay, yeah, that might actually, who knows? Who knows? I don't think anyone's ever tried feeding a house creatine, but I guess that you could feed it protein powder, I guess, or something. Additionally, approximately 880 uh, NOAA employees were fired in February 2025, with an additional 1,029 leaving through buyouts or resignations by April of 2025. Uh, as we said before, this combined with the proposed budget cuts could result in communities not receiving adequate uh, severe weather information ahead of time. So possibly cities would not know about the severity of a tornado and so would not have adequate information about whether to sound the alarm or not, or possibly receive the information much too late. Um, Possibly not even receiving it at all if there are not enough uh, people monitoring weather systems or not enough people to contact city governments and administrations, which could further risk potential loss of life. Uh, but yeah, overall, the damage we've seen in St. Louis and in Clayton and in Richmond Heights and in the Central West End, not just here but then also across the country, as a result of these severe weather events, I feel like is kind of a wake up call that this is not going to reduce anytime soon, and this is only going to get worse. And cutting the agencies which are there to help us prevent and prepare for those severe weather events, and then to help us recover after the fact, those are not the agencies where we should be cutting the staff of those agencies. That is not where the agencies where we should be cutting their budgets by 27% or by 30% or by making it harder for people to access those funds to rebuild their communities after a devastating thing like what we saw on May 16th. Nicholas, do you have anything else to add before we leave?
My right ear has been ringing for the past 5 minutes. I don't know why.
I meant like relevant information to what we're talking about.
It's not relevant.
No, your
Think about
right
the
ear
barometric
ringing is
pressure.
not relevant to weather disasters.
Think about the barometric pressure change caused by the tornado, which could have caused my ear to ring. The butterfly effect is a real thing, you know.
Yeah, but if it was a barometric pressure change, it'd be in both ears, not just one of them.
No, because my right ear is smaller than the other one, and so stuff happens. Anyway, no, I don't.
That kind of reminds me of like, you know how like you hear the stories about like this uncle or this grandpa whose like knee starts acting up before like an earthquake or a storm or whatever?
No, I've heard that happens to cats, but no.
You've never heard like like in TV shows that there's like frequently a character who has like who says like, oh, my uncle or my aunt or my grandma or something, her knee starts acting up before a storm comes, or like her foot starts hurting before a earthquake hits us or whatever. You've never heard
Yeah,
that?
the knees thing I've heard, but they're also TV shows.
Well, yeah, it's just you saying that my right ear ringing and then trying to connect that to like
Oh, so I'm a
storms. That
grandpa?
just kind of reminded me of that. I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm a grandpa. Let's go.
That
I get
wasn't what
to
I was saying, but
I
okay.
get to sit on my
All right.
lawn
So
drinking
thank you for
for
listening
hours
to
at a
Simplifying the
time.
State. We'll be back next week with our next episode. Next week is summer, but we will still be uploading over the summer to make sure we stay up to date with everything going on in politics and with the news. If you enjoy the podcast, please feel free to rate it on Spotify. Every rating helps. And subscribe or whatever the option is on Spotify, on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to this, to stay up to date with any new episodes when they come out. All right, we will see you next time for our next episode.